Welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. My name is Dave Azzopardi and I'm delighted to have Jordan Russell and Joe Parker from Concept Scouting alongside me today to dissect what was another eventful weekend for Wolves. We crash out of the FA Cup in dramatic style. I'm sure we'll talk all about it in today's podcast as well. Hopefully there's no technical issues. Last week's podcast I thought was really good, barring the audio problems at the start. But Jordan, to start off with you, how you been keeping, man? How was your weekend?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Take away the result and the frustration of that. It was my anniversary on Thursday.
Oh, wow, a year already? Yeah.
1 year already. So, yeah.
Since the Gentleman's Club. What was that called again?
Oh, the Boardroom.
Yeah.
Boardroom, yeah. They still haven't sponsored the pod, but if the Boardroom and Antigua go on to at any point, then I think we'll definitely take that sponsorship opportunity up. So, year anniversary. So, we went out for food on Saturday and... yesterday, I managed to squeeze 12 holes of golfing. So I was meant to play 9. Well, I wanted to play 18, but I had other commitments. Said I'd play 9, ended up getting 12 in. So I think it's not horrific. Can't complain, no. So and I definitely needed it after Matheus Cunha gate, let's call it, on Saturday, just to relieve some stress.
Did you go anywhere nice for the meal?
So, actually, went to the Asprey, which is where the wedding party was.
Oh, right. I was nice there, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, we went there for food on the Saturday. I said I couldn't take you back to Antigua for a day. So, we went back to where the party was. So, no, it was nice food. It's a good little spot there. And, it was a nice little weekend, to be fair.
I can't believe it's been a year already. That's so quick. So, congratulations to you both on 1 year. Joe, how you been keeping, buddy, again, apart from the football? Good week?
Yeah, all good, mate. I'm going to try not to talk about the football for as long as we possibly can. So yeah, it was a great weekend. Obviously, notwithstanding the issues that we'll come on to. But yeah, it was good, mate. It's a chilled one. Weather's picking up. I don't know about you, but the seasonal depression is leaving, and we're kind of heading towards positivity, which hopefully is kind of reflected on the pitch moving forward. But jury's still out on that one.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Any more Simon Wilson in this week, or?
I've gone bollock deep on Simon Wilson, absolutely.
I will
continue to do so. Yeah, mate, I don't even care. I would turn for that guy, I think. Mate, do you know what? I've suddenly become like a travel vlog. That's what I spend my kind of free time doing. That and playing GeoGuessr. So I don't know if you're familiar with GeoGuessr.
Yeah. I've never really got into it. I've played it a few times though.
Very familiar with the number plates in Peruvian villages now. Yeah. I'm right up there, but no, it's all good, mate. This is the life of a man in his mid-30s. This is what happens. Jord knows.
Jord's way past that, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you're here, Joe, because we brought the average age of the podcast up now.
We have, mate. Yeah,
Dave's now the little sprout, let's say.
Well, talking of that, actually, I was watching Dave. You announced 7 years since Talking Wolves started. Yeah. So I thought I'd go back and watch a little bit of the first video, which I think it was you and Ewan, ironically. Which Ewan's very excitable in that first video. I'm not sure what he.
Which one was it? Like a preview, was it, or something? Or
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it was a preview for the whole game, where you kind of showed about how good Oscar Burr was. But yeah, I don't know if Ewan had been maybe on some sort of substance before that, but he looked very, very excited to be on Talking Wolves, which obviously we all are.
I'll have to watch. You know what? I haven't done it for ages. Back in the day, I used to go back and watch some of those videos because
you look exactly the same, though.
Do I sound the same as well? I think in terms of talking a little bit.
You sound a little bit girlier now, but not too much.
Yeah, no, those were the days. I can't believe it. Like when it just popped up on my Facebook, I had shared the trailer that we made, and 7 years. Crazy, fun times.
When was it when me and Aid were on the same table as you and Matt for the end of season dinner? That was probably a couple of years in, was it?
Yeah, that would have been the first year of the Premier League, so that would have been just over a year, in about a year and a half in. Because I went to the end of season dinner on my own. Little sad, don't I? On my own at the end of the championship winning season, and then we went the year after, and they've not done one since then.
No. I just remember watching Matt try to follow Adama Traore around the room, kind of worryingly so. It was almost inside him at one point.
Yeah. I got a last minute selfie. The two pictures I've got from that night is a selfie of Raul Jimenez and a selfie with you. So Standard 9.
Take your pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Take your pick.
But I suppose we'll have to talk about the football now, boys. Wolves crash out of the FA Cup. It was 1-1 against Bournemouth after extra time, and it went to penalties. Wolves were one kick away from winning the tie and having back-to-back FA Cup quarter-finals, but unfortunately, it just wasn't to be. And Wolves are probably in a much, much worse place now with the news that Vitor Pereira gave us in regards to injuries, obviously out of the cup, and a suspension for Matheus Cunha, which I'm sure we'll get onto, and I'm sure we'll talk about quite in depth throughout the podcast as well. If anyone's listening or you're watching on YouTube, as always, hit the buttons, but let us know your thoughts as well in the comments on that one. Now I think everyone's calmed down a little bit and maybe a little bit more rational about their opinion on it. Jord, to start with you, in terms of team lineup, I think I was expecting Vitor to go quite strong anyway, and he backed that up really, didn't he? I mean, Johnston was in goal. A couple of changes, you would assume, due to fatigue and so on, but it was still a pretty strong team and a team you would have backed to, give Bournemouth a good test throughout the game.
Yeah, 100%. And when I saw the Bournemouth team announced, I actually thought after what happened the week before as well, I'd have had us as slight favourites to go on and win that pre-kick-off, because I thought we went fairly strong, which was, I think, the right thing to do. And for me, seeing Cliver and Dango Ouattara in the starting 11 for Bournemouth, who have both been on fine form recently for them, I thought it'd give us even more of a chance, really. There's a little bit of rotation as and where, but for me, it was, like I say, relatively strong. And I genuinely thought before a ball was kicked that actually we've got half a chance here to go and win this in normal time.
I mean, it wasn't a fantastic performance overall. I just don't think Wolves got going, did they, George? I mean, looking at the 90 minutes, we had the moment of brilliance from Cunha, which we'll talk about. But other than that, just really struggled to create opportunities, didn't we?
Yeah, for me, it was just one of those games where we didn't turn up, we didn't play well, and actually, it's football, and sometimes you can't play well every game. And I think actually, I've seen a lot of criticism for the performance of it not being a good one, and I agree, by far wasn't a good one. But when you aren't playing well, you've got to be able to dig in and defend well and do the basics well. And I think on the whole, I think we defended very well, especially at sort of second half onwards and in extra time as well. I thought we held the shape. We sort of did okay. I granted, I think the one criticism was we definitely didn't have sort of a counter punch going the other way. And I think that's a bigger, more of a deeper rooted problem within this squad, that if I'm Vitor Pereira in the summer, Fosun, Matt Hobbs, whoever it is that actually one thing we're lacking, you can talk about quality, all this sort of stuff, is we've got no pace in that team, or there's a lack of pace from the back to front. And when we were so impressive under Nuno, when we were counter-attacking teams, we had frightening, devastating pace on the counter and the transition with, Jota, Traore, Jimenez, and we would just hurt teams going back the other way. I think, actually at the moment, we just haven't got that. So for me, that's a massive, massive thing we need to address in the summer. But all in all, I think if we did have that counter-punch going the other way, we would have had more of a chance of nicking it, I think, against Bournemouth. Because I do, again, within a shape, I thought we played all right, actually, without offering much going the other way.
Yeah, I agree on the whole pace thing. And then obviously this is our first podcast since the Fulham game as well, which I'm sure we'll pick up on certain points, but we won't go into too much detail with it being almost a week ago. But I thought the same against Fulham. Some of the players are having almost like a hybrid role, but João Gomez, especially in the first half, was picking up pretty much a right wing role. And I think he has, obviously, João Gomez is a very good footballer, but what he isn't, he's not lightning quick. And I think we really are lacking that overall in the squad. You've got Carlos Forbes, who obviously isn't the player that I think a lot of us wanted or expected him to be, because Gary O'Neill didn't seem didn't favour him. Vitor Pereira is the same at the moment, which is a shame, because I think I would be intrigued to see how he would get on, even off the bench in games like that. But Joe, it was, George's right. I mean, we'll get on to extra time and how Vitor looked to set us up. But in terms of us, creating chances, and then I think giving away simple chances as well. The opening goal for me is disappointing, because I think it's avoidable. But even Sam Johnston's positioning as well was a little bit questionable.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a spell in the first half, 15 minutes, where they battered us, and I think it was largely of our own making. I don't think they were cutting us apart. There was a chance, I can't remember whether it was just before or after, where Totti, unlike him actually, in fairness, was kind of dwelling on the ball, and they've created a chance, and I can't remember whether the keeper made a save, but we gave a glaring opportunity away. Obviously, they've had the goal disallowed, which you could argue there wasn't a fat lot wrong with it, I don't think. But the mentality going into the game was a bit of a strange one for me, I think, especially having gone there last week and dominated for periods and kind of soaked up pressure. So I do get why he did that, but I do think we were a little bit submissive in that game. I think we just decided that the best thing we could do was shit out something on the break, which obviously we did. And tactically, you could argue if that's a Premier League game and you go and get a point down at Bournemouth, then absolutely fine, no problem at all. Yeah, we wrapped that game up in 90 minutes with a point. But it was a bit of an odd one for me. I do think, having been at the game on Wednesday and we watched the game on Saturday, we look knackered. To me, I think we look knackered. I think defensively, when it comes to last ditch defend the box, as we generally are, when we're in that zone of just defending our box, particularly with Totti. But I thought Giga did well as well. Santi Bueno, other than that 10-15 minutes spent in the first half, was solid as well. So I do think we've vastly improved since Vitor came in that regard, because we're almost inviting crosses in. Which I'm sure we'll come on to why we don't put any crosses in, but we're inviting crosses from the opposition quite regularly, and we're dealing with them that never really looked under any massive threat, which is strange considering Bournemouth had all of the ball. But other than that spell in the first half, 10-15 minutes, they didn't really create anything clear cut, other than the two big saves at the end, I think, from Sam Johnston. So I think that was the extra time. So it's a strange one, because you come out of it now, it's kind of flipped on its head. We've gone from not being able to defend and kind of being really fluid in attack to being really solid, I think, defensively now, but having absolutely nothing going forward. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll come on to that, but that's a worry for me. I always think if you're going into the back end of the season and you can score goals, then you're in a good position. But at the moment, we just don't look like putting 2-3 past anybody, do we?
Yeah, no, I thought the same. Under Gary O'Neill, it was like we've gone from sort of one extreme to the other. Under Gary O'Neill, we could score goals, but we were conceding really daft, silly goals. And like you said, under Vitor, look, you said they're defending the box really well, and obviously what you mean by that is when teams are on top and Wolves have got the low block, they are defending quite well. We only seem to be conceding goals sort of on the when we get caught out on the break. But in terms of sort of excitement, Jord, going into this game, it was so strange, I thought, because we've just beaten Bournemouth. I think the Fulham game was maybe a huge dent in that excitement, because it feels like, there's a little bit of pressure back on the Premier League again. But we were one game away from the quarter-final, and just going into the game, it just didn't seem there was a lot of excitement for it. And obviously it translated over onto the pitch as well with the players, I think.
Maybe, yeah. Like I say, for me, I'm massively up for the Cup. I think it's, for a team like Wolves and sort of where we are within the Premier League hierarchy at the moment, you need cup runs, because seasons can peter out, typically speaking, around February, March time, where you're out of both cup competitions. And in a normal season, where we'd expect probably Wolves to finish, would be in around anywhere from 10th to 15th. Like, the Cup just keeps it going, because that general excitement around the team and everything. And actually, I don't want to say it was winnable, because there's still so many games to go, but when you look at actually who's left in the hat, bar Man City, you go in, again, there's good teams in there, like obviously take Bournemouth out because they would have been in there, but Villa, Brighton, to name but two. But over a 90-minute game or a 120-minute game with penalties, you're thinking, in a one-off game, I don't think we're a million miles off them if we play well and play to our capabilities. So, yeah, it was a little bit underwhelming. But I also think, as well, going back to Bournemouth a week after you played them in the Cup, the fact that it's a small stadium, in all due respect, and, you go to some of these away games in the Cup where you get 15, 20% and you can get 4, 5, 6, 7,000 even, depending on how big the ground is in there. Even from a fan perspective, it probably just didn't feel that way. But I was massively up for it. And I think, actually, like we've said already through this podcast, the performance was pretty flat for whatever reason, and sometimes it happens, but I don't really think the one criticism I have of Vitor Pereira as well on the weekend of it is although I was quite comfortable, like I say, in that shape and we just didn't have that counter punches, I don't think he tried to impact it in a positive manner. I feel like he tried to solidify and get through to penalties for one reason or another, which is his prerogative and hindsight's all nothing. But if we'd have won, we were one Matt Doherty penalty away from actually going through, and everyone was saying he's a genius because we've
exactly
held on and we've got through. But it's just it's a coin flip really when you get to penalties in general, and we lost the coin flip. So yeah, because I've even seen people on Twitter mentioning it could have used a 6 sub, and we didn't. And why didn't we do that? And I don't know. The thing is though, like again, I think Hwang could have given us an option. I thought Strand Larson was pretty ineffective all game. But then I've seen Hwang take a couple of penalties for Wolves, and I'm like, you wouldn't trust him to score from 12 yards at the moment either. So I don't know. Like I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and yeah, effectively we've been knocked out by a penalty shootout, which could have gone either way, and we had the chance to win it. So.
Yeah, it was interesting when I did the preview this week. I sort of posed that question, saying, and we've spoke about it since the sort of Cup's return, really, and I've seen it on social media. Would you take an FA Cup win over Premier League status? And I think a lot of people would have said maybe 3-4 months ago, yeah, we'll take the cup. I'd take a cup win over the Premier League status. And on the preview in the comments, it was like a real shift that people like, no, not bothered about the cup. I'd rather see us play the kids and keep us in the Premier League, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. But I don't know. I think tiredness is probably a big factor. And Joe, we'll quickly stick on that subject of Vitor Pereira, because I know you sort of commented on a post that I put out, because I thought at the end of the game, some of the stick that he was getting was a little bit unfair, because I think it was pretty clear. It has been pretty clear for the last week or so, the state of this squad in terms of condition and fatigue. And I think ultimately you're not going to be able to play free-flowing, counter-attacking football with a tired squad, especially after 110, 115 minutes of football. So I think, he went in with a clear game plan, whether you like it or not, in that extra time, to sit 11 men behind the ball. And that's why we saw Alfie Pond probably come on ahead of Pedro Lima. Stick 11 men behind the ball for half an hour, get us through to penalties. And then, like you said, Jord, it's a coin flip. I just don't think you would have been able to play. I think he's in a lose-lose situation there, isn't he?
Yeah, it is. And I think the key thing that a lot of fans don't seem to gauge is that we're not watching them train. We're not watching them all week. The blokes watching, and this is the case with all managers, to be fair, that he obviously knows who's available, who's maybe pushing it a little bit further. I think the fact Strand Larson stayed on the pitch for as long as he did, given a combination of him, I agree with Jordy, he was ineffective. I think that was largely down to the way we were playing into him didn't help. In which case, if you've come back from 4 or 5 weeks out, I think it was, come in playing a kind of half here and there, and then you play 120 minutes. That's a strange one. But at the same time, you don't know what the kind of the sports science team are saying. So they'll be very much led by that, and they'll know a hell of a lot more than we will, and any of our fans will, in terms of who's available for what minutes. Given the state of the squad, and I think I said before, the squad's in a much healthier state than it was this time 12 months ago, probably where it was this time 18 months ago, but it's still not there yet.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we've not got someone who can come in for Eight Nori, really, we've not got someone who can. I think maybe Saturday might have been a good opportunity to start Pedro Lima, possibly. I think that would have been important, but again, we don't know what's going on, do we? And I think this is where it's coming home to roost in a way where I find it so funny that people slag Hwang off for months, right? He gets injured, he's out, and then as soon as he's back, I'm seeing the same people say, why didn't they bring Hwang on? And there's going to be a reason for that. I assume he's in the squad and he's a last resort because we need to get senior players in the squad. He's probably not ready to be playing yet. I'm sure Strand Larson probably wasn't ready to be played yet, but we're having to bring these players back because in certain areas we still don't have the depth. I think the fact that we don't have an able deputy for Strand Larson, I'd say maybe Hwang is that man if he's fit, but with the fact that they've both been unfit, there's not enough depth in those front areas. There's not enough variation in the players we've got available. Rodrigo Gomez and Carlos Forbes on paper offer something on Saturday. I think personally, Rodrigo Gomez definitely he's not available. Forbes for one reason or another is available to go and get his haircut on Instagram, but he's not available to play
at 2 a.m.
So,
by the way.
yeah. So the It's a funny one. I do think there's probably something going on behind the scenes. I do get the impression that there's something going on. It seems a little bit off to me, not necessarily led by the manager or by anybody in particular. But I think given where we are in the league, that's going to bring a degree of uncertainty. There's a lot of chat around Semedo this morning, going to Benfica. There's a lot of just general uncertainty about the club, and I think that feeds into a lot of things. I just think the depth that we have in certain areas is great. People have slated where we've been at centre-back for ages, whereas if you take the injuries out of it, we've probably got 6 or 7 competent centre-backs now who can do a job there. So we've overloaded that position now, despite the fact that we've got injuries, but I still think we could put a decent team out. We've got 2 full-backs, 2 wing-backs when really we need 4. Pedro Lima probably wouldn't be around the squad if we had another senior right back. I think he'd be pushing next season, but not necessarily now. I just think we are missing in certain areas, and that's coming down to roost now. Fulham came and did a job on us on Wednesday, Tuesday, whenever it was.
Yeah,
of which we probably brought a degree of that on ourselves in terms of what we offered on the pitch. But I think from a fitness perspective, we haven't really got any excuse other than the size of the squad, because you've got teams who are playing in European competition. They've been playing in League Cups, FA Cups, leagues. I don't think we've really got an argument there. I think the squad is probably big enough to be able to cope with the work, the match load that we've got. I think possibly the fitness levels just aren't where they should be, which is ironic considering how Gary O'Neill had slated Lopetegui when he came in. And I don't think you can put that at Vitor's door just yet. I think we're still battling through the Christmas period when he came in. So it's a funny one. I do think we should be genuinely doing better than we are. I think the results that we've got on Tuesday and on Saturday probably aren't reflective of how good we are. But the squad's just kind of fallen apart. We've got injuries all over the shop.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. You got to hope now this sort of full week of recovery. And you can hope and pray maybe 1 or 2 players come back. And I think if they can get through the Everton game and get something out of that game, I think we then move on to the international break, don't we? I think after that one. So that's sort of I think Vitor is really, really hoping, that comes sooner rather than later. But Saturday's a huge game against Everton, which we will talk about later on as well. We'll just quickly touch on the goals. Jord, obviously Bournemouth's opener, which we mentioned, earlier on with Joe. I think Johnston's positioning was a little bit off, but they did have the ball in the back of the net. That VAR situation was just absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean, what did it take, 7 or 8 minutes to come to a decision? I didn't have the commentary on, so I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but was it something to do with the semi-automated offside playing up as well, or I'm not sure?
Yeah, it said it wasn't working, and that had to go back to drawing lines, and they were trying to work out if he actually handballed it or not. And I thought it was quite clear to tell on my South African stream that there was a handball in there for one, and then they moved to the offside. So I think they almost sort of were like, well, we're not sure if it's handball or not. Let's check the offside, and then semi-automated offsides weren't working. Fun enough, they had a problem with it in the Man United game yesterday as well against Fulham, and it just comes down to semi-automated offsides have worked in the World Cup, European Championships, Champions League, no issues at all. All of a sudden, we use it in one round of the FA Cup, and it's like there's all these problems with it. I'm just like,
Did you hear what they were using? Did you hear what they were using to deploy it? They were using 15 iPhone 14s around the pitch.
Oh my god!
So it's just, again, like you're just like, what are we doing here? Like with all the technology in the world, meant to have the best league in the world. I know it's an FA competition, but it's just shite. It's no good for anyone. It's no good for the fans in the stadium. No good for the people watching around the world. And actually, injuries are probably going to start happening on the back of that. And what I mean by that is muscle injuries, where you run in and then you go cold a little bit, and then all of a sudden people pull up. I'm surprised there's not been more of that happen than it has. But yeah, no, look, shocking. And you could tell within a minute or two, it looked, for me, I said straight away, it's come off his arm. It's got to be handball. And even then, from looking at it nakedly, and they're like, we're going to check offside now. It's like, well, he's definitely got to be offside because it comes forward off Kirkes and hits Howson anyway. So it's like, it's why we've got to draw the lines here. Yeah, it was just shocking. It's an embarrassment.
In the United game, I haven't watched it. So what was the goal like? Was that a little bit similar with like a goal mouth scramble? Or is it a completely different sort of thing?
No, I think they were just trying to check one, and it was just they were saying, "Oh, they're having problems." It couldn't come on the commentary. They're having problems with the goal line technology.
My only thinking is if there were too many bodies in there that it couldn't sort of recognise like the difference between the bodies or whatever. But in the Man United game, if it was a different sort of like a counter attack or something like that, I don't know. But
you see it with in the Champions League, it comes up. It's so efficient, and then it literally does almost like a AI generated image, doesn't it? And it's like this part of his body's ahead of the ball or head of the last defender, so it's offside. It works so well in UEFA competitions. Why in England can we not get this working? It's meant to reduce time, and it's actually took a lot longer. So yeah, it's just shite. It's really bad.
Yeah, obviously Alex Scott had the ball in the back of the net as well. That was for handball. And sort of going into half time, lads, it wasn't the best of performances, but you just knew that if we were going to get anything out of this game, we probably needed a little bit of magic. And we'll talk about the negative side of Matheus Cunha in a minute. But Joe, the finish is just out of this world. It's just typical Cunha, grabbing that game by the scruff of the neck and say, "Give me the ball, let me sort it out for you." And it's just, I think now the most goals outside of the box out of any player in the top 5 leagues, Matheus Cunha's got. And that's another top draw finish, to add to that collection.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get overtaken on that in the next month or so. But I think it was a great goal all round. Actually, I think the build up. I think Strand Larson was involved. It was quite a good team goal, and obviously naturally Cunha's on the end of it, and he's not many players can do that, can hit a ball that sweetly. It was a funny one because on first watch, I thought Kepa should have done better with it.
Yeah,
I thought it did, but when you see the angle from behind Cunha, the ball's moving all over the place. He's got the 9-9 behind it, so it was a great strike. It's just the frustration for me before we come on to the kind of discipline element of it with Cunha. He's obviously a world class footballer when you look at his talent and what he can do on the ball, but for 15 minutes either side of that goal, probably even more than that, he's absolutely anonymous. And this is the issue that I have, and everyone who watches this podcast anyway knows I've got a penchant for Jord and Larson because I know he can offer more. But I think it's so tough for players like Sarabia and Strand Larson to try and they're effectively doing double the work, and both of those players cop a load of flack for work rate. Watching them on Saturday, they are doing Cunha's running for him, and that's frustrating because Ait-Nouri's a good example. Ait-Nouri has to do 2 players worth of running as well. He's getting up and down, and he does get up and down. But on a game like Saturday where Ait-Nouri's a little bit quieter, you have to kind of look at it and assume that's largely because of the running that he's having to do and the kind of tracking that he's having to do. He's not really getting forward. So I think these moments are brilliant. Of course they are, and they're what you live for as a fan. The fans down at whatever they call the Bournemouth ground these days, they're going to love seeing goals like that. Obviously, of course we do. But the issue for me is we know we can do that. There's no real debate about that, and we've seen this with other players in the past. There was periods where Jota was absolutely unplayable, but at least you still got the legs, you still got the tracking back, you still got the shithouse tackles every now and again, try and break play up for your team. The issue that I have, I'm a big fan of him, and I do think he cares. I've seen a lot of tweets over the weekend about he doesn't care. Maybe he got himself sent off on purpose because he was injured and he wanted to come off. I don't buy any of that at all.
Not with a minute to go. What's the point?
I don't get that at all. And he's got the opportunity to have a bit of glory in scoring a winning penalty. So that's what he lives for. He's into that sort of stuff. So don't buy any of that. I just think he's the kind of player that he is, and I don't think he's always been like this. When he first came to us, didn't see a lot of this kind of Hollywood balls, kind of shooting from corners. Obviously, I know we got a goal for it, brilliant, but think of the amount of corners we've wasted by chucking him into the keeper. So I am a little bit interested and intrigued moving forward if it is a 3, 5, 6 game ban, which I do think, I know Liam Keane said that there's no retrospective punishment on the back of what he received from Ipswich because it wasn't given on the pitch. But I do think they could potentially uplift this ban a little bit. We'll come on to it in a minute. But I am, in a way, looking forward to seeing how we operate without him because I want to see players fighting off the ball. I'd rather, and this is just me, it's great seeing these 30-yard screamers. Obviously, it's great as a fan to see that, but I want to see running, I want to see application, I want to see working as a team. And players like Manetzi, who's already copping flack, will run his bollocks off for this club, for any club that he plays for. And me personally, I'd rather see that. I'd rather see those players get an opportunity in the shirt for a few games now. And to be honest, if we get some results while he's out, there's an argument to say maybe he doesn't necessarily come straight back into the team if we're picking results up. And given the games we've got, players like Jurgen Strand-Larsen, Pablo Sarabia, Hwang Hee-chan, they need to step up now. This is their opportunity to show that maybe they're the main man moving forward. I think it's a really big opportunity for us, and I think it is quite interesting.
Yeah. Very quickly before we move, or carry on talking about that, in terms of Jurgen Strand-Larsen, I'd sort of agree. I had a phone call with, like a work-related phone call there just before we started, and the only player he mentioned was Strand-Larsen and how ineffective he was. And yes, you could say that to a degree. I think, Joe, I agree with you in terms of how we set up, not just on Saturday, but in general. I think he's a big lad, and yes, in terms of his hold-up play, sort of January and before January, you look at in terms of had the most hold-ups in the Premier League, and I just don't think there's enough players around him at the moment. But you posted on Concept Scout quite an interesting stat about his aerial duels and aerial ability. What was that again, just so people know?
What I tend to do, and I think I've had enough rows with people in the past to try and justify what I struggle when people say things like he's useless in the air, because I know objectively he isn't. He's pretty much as good as anyone, as the average centre forward in the air. Like most things, he's not amazing at it, but he's not terrible at it either. And I wanted to have a little bit of a look at it, and it was based on his aerial duels that he competes in. That's offensively and defensively when he's back defending corners, which obviously no one seems to remember, all these sort of things, the dirty things that he has to do. And a comparison of the volume of aerial duels that he has versus the amount of aerial duels that he wins. And he's above average in both. He competes in more and he wins more than most other centre forwards.
Yeah,
you could argue with that. A lot of centre forwards these days in the modern game are your smaller, maybe Julian Alvarez type players where they can operate a little bit more with the ball at the feet, which is fair enough. But in isolation, everything backs up the fact that he's okay at the very worst in the air. He's fairly solid actually when you look at the data across the whole piece. And I think you look back to some chances he's had, some goals that he's scored where he's had aerial duels. I think that there was one against Arsenal first game of the season where David Raya made a great save from a header. So I found that a little bit odd, and I do think, having watched him for Celta Vigo, we're not playing anywhere near what his game is. I think he likes players around him. He likes creative players around him. And I think Cunha, people will be screaming saying Cunha's a creative player. He isn't really. He's not a player that creates loads of chances for his teammates. He just isn't. That's fundamentally not what he is. Sarabia more so. But games like Saturday where we have very little of the ball, and when we do get the ball, instead of carrying it, we are looking to ping it up to Strand-Larsen again, which is fine if there's anyone around him. And I think because we don't operate with a number 10 traditionally in terms of centrally, Cunha's kind of peeling off, Sarabia's peeling off as well. You could argue they're more central than a winger, but they're not necessarily around Strand-Larsen with the ball. We don't have any midfielders who are really around him either, and I think that's where Manetzi comes in. I think if we're going to play that way, we need to get Marshall Manetzi around him. Now, for me, if you had a Rodrigo Gomez on one side and a Cunha on the other, then you're probably complementing him quite well because you've got players running beyond him. At the moment, I'm not really sure what we're doing from a style perspective going forward. That was why he looked so much better under Gary O'Neill. We were playing in ways that kind of support him. Now, if he doesn't score again for the rest of the season, but we stay up, he's done his job in the fact that he's playing more for the team than he is for himself.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing, I think, because Cunha will get all the plaudits this season, no matter what happens now. But it's these kind of players that aren't getting the individual stats, but they're creating for the team, or they're kind of doing the dirty work, which Strand-Larsen's mentioned himself in interviews. He's maybe not playing in the position or in the style that he'd be particularly happy with, but he's doing it because it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. And yeah, all the data supports that he's pretty good at what he's doing. Nothing. he's not really bad at anything, which I find a really interesting thing with him. I do think there's more to come. I do think he was poor on Saturday largely, but we always have to pull these scapegoats out in a way. Saw it when Doherty missed the penalty. You see it with Sarabia how weak he is. Players have weaknesses. That's the way it goes. Even the best players in the world. Lionel Messi doesn't score 30 headers every week, does he? Because he's got a certain skill set that teams he plays for contribute to. So I'd be very disappointed if we lost Strand Larson at the end of this season, because I want to see more from him. And I think it's slightly unfair that some of the stick that he's been getting.
Yeah, I think certainly. I mean, when you look at strikers, a lot of people will look ultimately towards the goals, and I think his return has been okay. I think it could be better. I think he'll probably be the first to admit that. But I certainly think, sort of going back to what you said there, he may want to play in a different style or different role. And the elements of that players need to play to his strengths, and the manager needs to set up to play to his strengths as well. But ultimately, at the moment, Wolves are just, I don't know, doing what they can to make sure they're not losing football matches. But I'm hoping, now Cunha's out, I'm hoping that we see Strand Larson step up, and hopefully, maybe not against Everton, but a little bit of an international break. I'd assume he might be in the Norway squad, to be fair. But, hopefully a little bit of a rest, and he comes back a fresher and better player for the real crunch fixtures after the internationals. Jord, we'll go back to the red card, though, from Cunha. It was, obviously, I made my thoughts known on the reaction video, but it was just a moment of craziness, wasn't it? He's gone from hero to zero there. Like we said, a minute to go until penalties. No doubt he would have taken one of the penalties and probably been on the back pages if he'd scored the winning one. But, you can be a little bit unhappy that Kirkes has grabbed your shirt, but in you have no right to react the way that he did, do you?
No, and I'm sort of glad a little bit that this podcast is Monday, not Saturday, because I'd have probably been cancelled. And I probably will be saying some stuff here that is hard hitting, but the truth as well, and I wouldn't take any of it back. I think first, once is a mistake, second time is unforgivable, and I think what he did against Ipswich was pathetic. Yeah, really pathetic. Got away with it. Come out, he made a handwritten apology and all this sort of stuff, and he got 2-game ban when he should have got 5. We were lucky with that. And we picked up some vital points in and around that Christmas period when we shouldn't have been kicking a ball for us, in my opinion. If I was the one throwing the rule book at him, he wouldn't be playing. And there's still been times before Bournemouth where there's been petulance, throwing his arms up, gesturing at his teammates, which I'm not on board with whatsoever throughout that at all. And where, again, I've got my gripes with him with that. Getting on to the Bournemouth incident, it's the 119th minute. You're a minute away from penalties. The flag's it's quite clearly offside. It's been blown up. Kirkes hasn't done anything bad. He hasn't lashed out at him. Hasn't aggressively tried to push him out of the way to get the ball. He's just tried to get the ball to carry on and play the game. I don't know why he's lost his head. I don't know why he's acted in that way. And for me, he's an entitled, spoilt brat of a bloke. Joe touched on it something earlier. Again, another thing that grinds my gears. Scored off a corner against Man United. Every corner since then, he's tried to shoot off every corner. It's all about him. It's the Matheus Cunha show.
That could be Vitor's instructions, to be fair.
Oh, no way! No, it's just not. It's just all about him. And yet, again, you saw the magic in that game. And I know even my tweet on the weekend, people saying, "Oh, we wouldn't be where we are without him." Couldn't agree with that more. He's a maverick. He's a fantastic footballer. But it is the Matheus Cunha show, and we're enabling him that with how we put him on a pedestal as fans, how we put him on a pedestal on social media, and it's rubbing off on the pitch now because he just thinks his main character syndrome. He thinks I can do what I want. I can act in any way I want, and he's acting like a fucking sport brat. And if I'm Matt Doherty, Nelson Semedo in that changing room on Saturday, I'd have my hands on him. I'd be ragging him around the changing room going, what the fuck are you doing? Matt Doherty missed a penalty. 12 yards pressure football, it should hit the target, but people miss penalties. Matheus Cunha would have been taking one of those penalties. It's not down to Matt Doherty that we're out of that game. It's all down to him, his petulance and him being a little bitch, right? And now he was going to get banned possibly for 3, 4, 5 games. Like, I think we should. If I'm the FA, he should get 5 games because what he's done was disgraceful, like utterly disgraceful. And again, not to compare it to anything, but people are calling out for a retrospective ban on the Millwall goalkeeper with the Mateta incident, which is a pure accident, by the way. It's a red card and hope Mateta's okay. Like, should be getting way worse than the goalkeeper gets because it's premeditated and it's ridiculous.
And he's had like 2 or 3 opportunities to stop, and he just kept going.
He kicked out, and the headbutt. I remember even when he kicked out, like obviously like a half second in between when he kicked out, I was like, "What are you doing?" And then he went for the headbutt. I was like, "Oh my god!"
It comes back to as well. There's no leaders in that changing room because I'm telling you now, and again, I don't want to compare it to years gone by or anything like that. But imagine Matheus Cunha in a Wolves team that was captained by Paul Ince, Paul Butler, Jody Craddock, Carl Emery even. They'd literally be putting hands on him, dragging him around going, "You fucking cost us again, you have." And he can be the best player in the team. He could be a world-class player and talent, which he is. But he's no good to us when he's serving time out for suspensions. It's going to be probably at least 6 games that he's going to get now with the Ipswich one as well, where he's missing because he's acted like a fucking 12-year-old baby, like on the pitch. And I think the more and more I watch of him, the more I realise why he's at Wolverhampton Wanderers as well. Because he did well in Germany. He went to Leipzig. Then he went to Atletico Madrid. Imagine him acting like this in the Atletico Madrid changing room, and you've got Diego Simeone as your boss, and you've got all these players there who, and again, Atletico Madrid have dipped a little bit from what they were maybe 6, 7 years ago, but they're still a very big club, top 3 team in Spain. Imagine him gesturing and doing all this stuff and like berating people and like all this theatrics, and like he's doing this to someone like Antoine Griezmann, who's won a World Cup and all these trophies. I'll be going, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, and that's why it's not worked there. And I'm telling you now, the weekend as well. And I know we had the conversation quite aptly about whether he stays or not. And I said I think he'll stay because of FFP reasons. I'll throw another one into there now. Not one sort of top elite manager or club would want Matheus Cunha they saw on the weekend anywhere near their squads, a performing squad. If he went into Liverpool or he went into Bayern Munich or any Barcelona, Real Madrid, again, throwing names out there, they won't want him anywhere near them. Why would they want him? Yeah, he might get a move to Man United because they're batshit crazy and it's just a mess. But anyone half decent's not going to touch him with that sort of attitude. And for me, again, I would much rather... I can't say I wouldn't want him to play for Wolves again because he's that brilliant. But the comparisons, what you made earlier about his work rate, Joe, like he ain't half the player Diogo Jota is. Diogo Jota was his work rate, tenacity, everything, brilliant. And if you don't work hard and you're going to do petulant stuff like that, I don't want you anywhere near our football club. If I was a manager and we might win, pick up points against Everton, Southampton, Ipswich throughout this run. If we got like a good cushion from the bottom 3, I'd make him sit out. I'd just be, mate, you hurt us when you're on the pitch. I can't trust you.
I think it's interesting, Jordan.
Get him off.
I don't know what you think, but especially in extra time, the fact that Cunha was the one staying up and Strand Larson, who would just come back from an injury, he's not match fit. I wouldn't say. He's the one who's back operating in the hole, trying to dig deep for the team. And this comes back to the point that I'm trying to make. They're the kind of players you want in your team. Players like Cunha come and go. They always will. There'll always be world-class footballers that will come through this club because of where we operate. Look at Brighton, look at Bournemouth, look at these teams. We'll always be passing these players up to, whether it's back to Saudi Arabia or whether it's, up to top 6 teams. But the ones that stick around for the long term and operate as a club player, the thing that pisses me off with it is, when he scores these screamers, reflects well on him. It's the Matheus Cunha show. When he does things like this, it's embarrassing for the club, not just for him. And I think Lemina copped a load of stick, as he should, because the way he handled the whole situation was pathetic. That reflected badly on Wolves after the West Ham game, I think it was, particularly. This is the second time Cunha's done it. And we're a laughing stock because of it. You can score as many 40-yard screamers past Kepa as much as you want, but when you do things like that on the pitch and you've got players like Andre trying to pull you off him, Andre was trying to rag him off Kirkes, like, just what are you doing? And I think Dan Bentley trying to get him down the tunnel. You got these guys who obviously love you to pieces. They're looking after you. Yeah, they're trying to get you off the pitch and sort you out because you can't sort your own head out. That for me, as George says, Dave, that's why he won't be. He might get a move to a big club, but he's not going to stick around there because he won't act it. As soon as the pressure's on, and again, I don't think it's a conscious I can't be arsed or I don't care about Wolves. It's I care more about myself. That's the issue.
And he thinks he's above Wolves. And you know 100%. What? His footballing ability of the 17th Premier League team at the moment, yeah, his footballing ability, he's above us. But like I said, he goes into one of these environments and he starts gesturing and he's looking around world-class talent who've won things and have been at the top for many, many years. They're all going to just be like, mate, who the fuck do you think you are? What's this ego about? You've got to leave that at the door. And I would as well, again, coming back to sort of the hard work thing that Joe just said there, look, give me 11 Joe Gomez's over 11 Cunha's every day of the week. I want players who want to play, hard working. And some of my favourite teams following Wolves for the past, 28 years. 28 years have been like that first season under McCarthy. And we had like Jamal Johnson and Rowan Ricketts and Darren Potter and all this stuff. But we were grafters. And it was like everyone was in it with each other. Like I enjoyed that. And again, Cunha's will come and go. We'll have quality players come and go for this team right now with sort of where we are as a football club. And I accept that and I appreciate that. But whilst you're here, just you've got to have the team's interest at heart. Like again, like I say, one time's an accident. Well, one time's a mistake. You apologise. Twice within 4 months is you being a dickhead.
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's inexcusable. The way that he reacted is just, and then it's bad enough doing it. There's a still image, and I'll probably use it on the thumbnail of the podcast of him looking shocked when the red card's out. But then, like you said, Joe, he won't go off the pitch. People are having to hold him back. Why? What are you going to do? Who are you going to deck? Like for what reason?
That's the concern, Dave. Someone pulls your shirt and you fling an arm out. Happens all the time. I get it, out of frustration, especially if you're knackered, right? Which that I can almost
that'll play a big part in it. Is fatigue and mental,
Yeah, and to be fair, Milos Kirkes has got a face you wouldn't get fed up of it. He just looks like that kind of bloke. He just deserves a good decking at some point. But fair play to him. He's a top class player, and he grafts his bollocks off for his club, and he's still going to the 120th minute battling with Cunha. So fair play to him. But the fact that Cunha's got 2, 3, 4 opportunities to stop embarrassing yourself more than anything. But like you say, what's he going to do? If you're going to punch someone, do it properly. Just do it. Get out of the way. If you can't stop yourself, then do it. But this kind of performative, almost like he's trying to show that he cares. That's what I kind of thought. Like, show you care by grafting on the pitch, run about. Don't make your number 9 centre forward who's just come back from 5-6 weeks out. We can do your running for you. That's enough for me. But it was just embarrassing. Genuinely, when I watched it, I thought, what's he doing? Like, there's genuinely no benefit to doing that. If you're in like the 80th minute and you won each and you're battling and you need the points and you're desperate for the points, not an FA Cup game where does it change Matheus Cunha's life if we win the FA Cup? I would imagine not. I don't think it's he wants to keep Premier League survival. I would imagine keep us up and take the credit for that. I just do not get the reaction at all.
Yeah, and it's put us in a strange position because like I mentioned 5 minutes ago, the hero kept us in the game. Would have been a big reason if went to penalties and we won. It would have been one of the biggest reasons we'd done so. But then he's sort of gone to zero, just a moment of pure stupidness. And now I think there's going to be a lot of worries and nervousness again. We're still 5 points clear of the drop zone, which is great, which means, like we mentioned last week, Leicester or Ipswich will have to win at least 2 more games than Wolves to stay in the Premier League with our goal difference. But this red card now, suspended at least 3 games, probably going to be between 3 and 5 games. Probably typically, if it's 5 games, probably the most the 5 most important games now of the season. Now, and these are the fixtures we were looking at from December, January onwards. Like, right, that's the period, and he's got himself banned for that. And for me, it puts a little bit more pressure on our Premier League safety again. But like you said, John, part of me is quite excited and intrigued to see how Vitor's set up, because he may well change shape. Do we go 3 in the middle and 2 up top? And who's going to step up? Because there's a massive opportunity for someone to say, he's not here, so let me change this game for us. I think Strand Larson, if he's fit, has got the ability to do that. I think Pablo Sarabia has been underwhelming this season, but has got the ability to do that. Can Gedge, Rodrigo Gomez, if they come back to fitness, will Carlos Forbes all of a sudden get pushed into the limelight, out of nowhere? I don't know, but Cunha has let us down massively there. And I think one thing that wound a lot of people up as well was after the game on his social media, the goal was shared. A picture of his celebration was shared way before any sort of very small apology, Jord, because it wasn't like a heartfelt apology, was it really, that he posted on his social media?
It was just, I think he probably saw he was getting a bit of flack online and was like, yeah, I am sorry though.
Yeah.
Like,
too late now, mate.
But he's sorry, like, again, you can make mistakes. And we've all made mistakes. Anyone listening to this part, I mean, I fucking made a few myself. But like, if you're gonna say sorry, at least mean it. Like, he don't mean it. He like, that apology is just, he doesn't mean it for me. It's just, I'm sorry. If I'm the club as well, going on to it, yeah, he's gonna get banned from the FA, and he's probably gonna get a financial fine as well. I'd be fining him 2 weeks' wages. I'd be fining him what you can fine him. And there's an international break coming up, and there's going to be games he's going to be missing. He's probably going to say, you know what, I'm going to go to Brazil and go and see my family. I'd be making him work like a fucking dog at Compton. He'd be running. He'd be in the training games for my 11 on the weekend. And you know what? No, you're not in. You're obviously not. You can't play, but you're going to run your bollocks off, and you're going to implement how Everton are going to play against us on the weekend, or Southampton. Like, you're the other side there, and you're going to fucking run. I'm fuming with him. I'd be, like I said, if I'm Matt Doherty or Semedo on Saturday, I'd have been putting hands on him, because he's just let the club down massively.
Yeah,
he's in the Brazil squad, isn't he?
Yeah,
in the first 53 at least.
Yeah. I wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't make it now because of that as well. I wouldn't. If I was the Brazil manager, I'd be like, no, we're not having that in this squad. No chance. There's some serious names on that list, by the way.
I found it interesting that the 2 names below him are Neymar and Oscar.
Oscar, what a little fun.
He's at this moment in time, he's taking both of them over him, just based purely on what he's done at the weekend, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, obviously the game went to penalties. Wolves lost out. Lads, it's weird because I hate watching penalty shootouts in general. I don't remember a huge amount of Wolves ones, especially successful ones. I've just looked at now. If we go back to, and it's 30 years ago this week, when Wolves beat Sheffield Wednesday. It was a crazy penalty shootout. I think they came...
Kevin Pressman.
Yeah, 2 or 3 down and ended up winning that penalty shootout. So since then, including that one, Wolves have had 16 penalty shootouts. They've won just 5 of them. And in our last 8, we've only won 1. 1 penalty shootout in our last 8, which was against Reading in the EFL Cup in 2019. But yeah, we lost, obviously, this one. Our last one was against Forest with the old Morgan Gibbs-White celebration. When Cunha tried to be the main character during that as well, actually, to be fair.
He did, yeah.
And then we lost on penalties to Spurs, which I think was against Nuno, if I remember rightly, as well. So yeah, we haven't had the best of form on penalties, but there was some decent penalties in there. I think Ainori took on us. Totti's penalty was quite nice as well. Johnston made a save, was unlucky with 1 or 2 after a very decent extra time period as well. Made a couple of good saves, like you mentioned earlier, Joe. But Boubacar Traoré, I think, was one of those when as soon as he walked up, I thought, oh no. And he's quite unlucky that it doesn't hit the back of Kepa and go back in. But Doc,
this is the thing, though, Dave. This is how key what Cunha's done is. He takes that 5th penalty and he puts it away.
Yeah.
So it's so crazy. If you're in a position where Boubacar Traoré is taking a penalty that's not that deep into sudden death, the bloke's not kicked a ball for about 5 years. You know, like how are we in that position where that's where we've got to? When you look at the players that are coming on for Bournemouth and the players that are taking their penalties, it's just horrendous all round.
I actually thought we'd won because the one thing is when I'm watching, like especially on a stream, my dad is one of these that I hate knowing what the score is. Like I have to turn Wolves notifications off everything. I cannot see goal and then I'm watching. Like I have to know like as if I'm watching it live. But what my dad does, he always just refreshes Google all the time to see if someone's scored or. And I'm like, Dad, like, can you just stop? Like, and when he gets like attention on the TV, I know something's going to happen. And what he did was, I think it was Howson, as he walked up to take it. He's like, oh, come on, I think we're gonna save this, and then it will be Doc to win it. So how the fuck do you know Doc is going to take the next penalty for a start? Yeah. And Howson missed. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, we've won then. We've won because how did he know Doc was going to take it? And then when he put it wide, I was like, that's it in the end. But it was just an absolute...
I'm never going to slag Matt Doherty off, but that penalty was fucking terrible.
He proper scuffed it, didn't he?
That was so bad.
It's bad enough having it saved, but that was just really poor. You know.
Well, Kepa didn't come close to saving any of them, did he?
No.
He went the right way for that one, to be fair, didn't he? But yeah.
Well, I always think in that scenario, and it's exactly what Lewis Cook did to level it. Is it takes a brave keeper, smack it straight down the middle as hard as you can. It takes a brave keeper at that point to stand still.
Yeah.
And again, hindsight's a nothing. But I was literally just walking up and said, just hit it down the middle.
You used to do that, don't you? Any sort of pressure on him, just smack it down the middle.
Yeah.
So, and Wolves out of the FA Cup. So now all focus is on the Premier League and hopefully survival. It's a massive, massive run of fixtures to Wolves coming up. We've got start off with Everton. Under the lights at Molineux on Saturday. It's a late kickoff, I think 8 o'clock kickoff. Again, our form of evening kickoffs. I was saying that on the weekend, we beat Villa the last time we had an evening kickoff, but the midweek games, not particularly great. And then we go on to a really interesting run after that. If I quickly grab it up on my screen now. But Everton, and I believe it's Southampton away, West Ham at home, Ipswich away. So the next 4 for Wolves are huge, huge games. Lads, we'll quickly jump onto some questions as well before we finish off. A lot of the questions, obviously, we would have already answered. But Gully, musings from Molineux, take out Agbadu, Gedge, Cunha, Rodrigo, and Bellegarde. So I'm not sure why he says Bellegarde. I know there was a few people that had knocks, but I don't know if he will definitely be injured. But give us your lineup for Everton. So I think obviously Sarr in goal. Your back five's probably going to be the same, is it?
Yeah.
With Doc coming in maybe.
Giga, in the league. But I thought Giga did a very good job. I actually think Doherty's played that role quite well since he's come in.
Yeah.
You got Andre and João Gomez.
Yeah.
Strand Larson will play. Munetzi will probably come back in, won't he? And then it's probably... Go
on. I had maybe Munetzi sat in front of João Gomez and Andre with Wang and Strand Larson as a 2.
I don't dislike that, to be fair.
From the wing backs, and I think that brings the best out of both of them up top.
Yeah, that's probably a shout. Yeah, but it probably depends if Gedge or Rodrigo Gomez, but it doesn't sound too promising with some of those. But again, if we can get through this game and then have the international break to almost have a week or so to reset and get the fatigue and some players back from injury, like Agbadu hopefully might be back after the international break. You know, that'd be a huge boost for us. So. Going to be a tough game because Everton have been on good form since Moyes came in anyway. So
Alfie Pond right wing back now.
I felt bad for Pedro Lima really, but it was obviously that he just wanted to part the bus, didn't he, for that half an hour?
I thought Alfie Pond did okay. There was one incident where he got turned inside out by Sinisterra because he just jumped onto the ball, but other than that, I think he did really well. There was a couple of instances where he actually carried the ball out and distributed it quite well, which nobody else fucking managed. So fair play to him.
Yeah. But yeah, that lineup will be interesting. We'll know more obviously after Vitor's pre-match press conference as well. Rich RJ Foster on Twitter. The Premier League lowest points total for 17th place survival is 32 points, which was Forest last season. Do you think Wolves will beat that? We would need 11 points from the next 11 games. It's weird because with our form this season, I don't think we'd get 11 points from 11 games, but with the fixtures that I've just mentioned, there is every chance that Wolves would beat that 32 points. But Jord, it's probably going to be enough to stay up again, I think.
I said it a few weeks back. I think 32's the benchmark to stay up, really. And I think we'll get to 32. I don't think we'll get much more than 32, but I don't think we need to. And I think, again, coming back to, I even saw tweets online that Cunha getting sent off means we're going down, we're going to get relegated because of it. Like, we're getting chased by, two really poor Premier League sides in the history of it all. And I think what people are probably forgetting as well is mentally that Ipswich defeat at Old Trafford when they had 11 men versus 10 for pretty much the whole of the game and lost it. I think psychologically that's a massive nail in the coffin for Ipswich as well. So yeah, I think we'll stay up. I think we'll get to 32 points and we'll stay up because I don't think the teams behind us are good enough to catch us.
Personally, I think we could get 6 points as long as those 6 points are against Ipswich and Southampton. We'll stay up because that'll finish them off. If we're 8 points clear of Ipswich,
we've got to play Leicester as well, haven't we?
Yeah, so there you go. If you get 7 points out of those 3 games, we're not going anywhere, which is really key. But I don't think we're any worse off going into them games without Cunha because match it up 11 versus 11, we should be winning all 3 of those games personally.
Yeah,
and we've battered Leicester away from home. Ipswich was just Gary O'Neill end of life stuff, which I think we're a much better team now. And I don't even remember the Southampton game, so I assume we won it.
We beat him 2-0, didn't we? Cunha scored a nice goal.
We should be getting 7 points from them 3 games, which that's enough.
Yeah. My very, very slight concern is if Leicester end up sacking Van Nistelrooy and get some sort of new manager bounce all of a sudden. But again, they've still got to better our results for at least 2 or 3 game weeks, which I just don't think it's going to happen. We just got to make sure we win those games. We just got every single one of those games. I mean, the fixtures that I mentioned, it's just West Ham, Everton, the teams. 3 teams above us and 3 teams below us. We play all of them between now and the end of the season. They're just huge games. They're huge games. Yeah. Bobby Smith, is Totti the most obvious captain for next season?
No,
I don't think it's an obvious choice, but
I think our captain for next season is someone we're going to buy in the summer, unless it's a Gomez Andre situation where
it's on the bench for Leicester now.
Club captain.
Someone said as well, he's something about Cunha. Should he even be a sensible choice to be vice? The sort of vice captain, which I don't think he should he?
No. I wouldn't give it. I wouldn't. Yeah, I think after that weekend, it wouldn't get anywhere near the armband for me ever again. I know it doesn't mean anything if Semedo goes off and whatever, but nah, he ain't no leader.
Freezing Wolf, considering Cunha is set to miss 4, potentially more games. If we could pick up 9 points from the next 4 games without him, do we see him ever in a Wolves shirt again?
Well, first of all, we don't know how many games he's going to be suspended for, do we? That's first of all. But if he's just, I'd love for us to go and win the next 4 games and him never play for us again, just purely out of spite. But I can't see that happening.
Yeah, same scenario for me. I hope we get enough points in the next 3-4 games that he's gone, that we don't have to play him, and I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't play him. If I'm Pereira, I'd bench him. If the manager can't trust him, it don't matter how good you are. If you can't be trusted, you're not getting on the pitch.
The issue is, I agree with that, and that was my sort of stance over the weekend. It says I hope that we are in a world where we can pick up those points, so we're safe. We don't necessarily need to use him, but every chance is we are going to, after his suspension, we are going to still need to win football matches, and ultimately he's probably the best chance of us winning football matches, whether we like it or not. So
I think he just needs to, when he comes back, he's got to come back with the right attitude. If he comes back with the right attitude, then fine, no problem at all. And we need him. I said it earlier, we need him more than he needs us right now. We could really do with him in the team, but that doesn't mean that we're the nails in the coffin without him, because take him out of that team, our team still shouldn't be in 17th place. We're still better than the 3 of them. So it'd just be nice to be not as reliant upon him. And then, if he wants to play Hollywood ball and kind of be the main character all the time, then you just bring him off the bench, and you don't cast him out, so to speak, because we still need him, but he just can't be as integral as he has been, because he's been proven to let us down twice this season.
What were the games that he missed earlier this season? So
Forest.
Spurs and Forest, was it?
Spurs, yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. Because Spurs, we actually played quite well. We were unlucky in that game. It was 2-2, wasn't it?
The Forest game, I think we played pretty well. Trent Larson had 2 chances that he should score. We conceded to Gibbs White in the first fucking 10 minutes, and we rolled around on our bellies, didn't we? So I don't think in either of them games we were poor.
Well, be interesting, lads. It's been a pleasure as always. We'll be back next week with a podcast reacting to that game, and hopefully it's 3 points against Everton, because it would be huge 3 points. I'm sure Molyneux would be rocking on Saturday evening if we manage to get that victory over the line. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts on Saturday's game in the comment section down below. If you're watching or listening rather on Spotify or Apple, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Joe, where can people find you and your content?
At Concept Scouting, mate.
Thank you very much.
Concept Scouting.
Perfect. And Jord, what about you?
Yeah, Jord7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere, and we're at Talking Walls everywhere on all the social media. We'll be back this week, obviously, for the pre-match Everton content as well, if you want to catch that one. But enjoy the rest of your week, guys. Fingers crossed it's a more positive game for Wolves on Saturday, and we'll catch you on the next one.